Welcome back to another week of Political Breakfast. We are so glad you are here and listening on WABE. We're always glad when you check in. I'm Lisa Rayam, and with me are strategist Brian Robinson and Tharon Johnson, and our producer Lily Oppenheimer. Hello to all of you. It was a great weekend for football.
For the Dogs, it was, man. I tell you, y'all should have seen me. After the Georgia Tech Georgia game last year, it was so cold, and you couldn't wear enough layers to get warm. I was thinking any night game's going to be that cold in November, so I'm walking in my beanie, and it's still in the 60s, right? And everybody's in polo shirts and shorts, and so I quickly realized I looked silly. And it was a perfect evening. It was an electric atmosphere. The weather really never got below 59, 60 degrees. It was perfect. Crowd was just really into it and loud. The Dogs are peaking, and I really believe that we may be the best team in America right now. And I know Ohio State is awesome, but they ain't played nobody like we have. I mean, our schedule is not comparable to theirs. We can't erase that Alabama loss that might keep us out of the SEC championship game, but no one is playing better than the Dogs right now.
Here in Georgia, I'm all Tech right now. I'm watching them. They're having a great season. I'm just really pulling for them. They're having a great time.
Yeah, Lisa, you're right. I mean, look, the mayor and all these Georgia Tech graduates that I haven't heard from in a while when it comes to football are definitely feeling emboldened, and they deserve a lot of credit. I mean, for our listeners, I do get it on the street. I have Tech graduates, Tech alumni folks come up and say thank you all for talking about the Yellow Jackets, but unlike the Dogs, they had a scare this weekend. So Congratulations to Georgia Tech for coming back and winning their game. Wow. And I agree with B-Rob. I think the Dogs look good. B-Rob, I didn't start watching them until the fourth quarter because, the whole season they don't really get going until the third, midway through the third. But I actually watched them, and I agree with you. I think they're on fire. Real quick, Lisa, we don't have to spend a lot of time on the Falcons. Let's just move on. Season's over.
This season
over.
It's over.
Season's over.
Right.
I'm not going to go as far as calling for Raheem Morris to be fired just yet. Lisa, there were a lot of glimpses of hope. The mayor said, at the Metro Chamber event, B-Rob, that if you're a Falcons fan, you're an optimist. So I'm still very much of an optimist. But season over. Let's just try to finish the season strong and healthy. And I hope Michael Penix Jr.
I was going to say
injury is not
injured.
too bad. Yeah, I hope it's not too bad. But Kirk stepped in and did all right. He does what Kirk does. Didn't do anything too spectacular. Didn't do anything too crazy. But we should have won that game. But this has just been a very, very disappointing season for us.
Totally. And you hate to see Penix going down with a knee injury when one of the big concerns about drafting him in the first place was he had torn 2 ACLs during his college career. And so we always knew that was a vulnerability. So much potential, so much talent there. I'm really hoping for exciting days ahead with him, but it ain't going to be this year that it happens, unfortunately.
Well, I'm going to the Tech Georgia game. B-Rob, I'm sure you will be there in one of your fancy suites. That you got all these hookups at the Benz. So, Lisa, if I get an extra ticket,
Lily and I would like to come.
I was going to say I was going to show a little love to you and Lily.
We appreciate it.
Brian's got the plug at UGA. They don't invite me to games anymore. But I'll look out for some tickets for you guys.
We appreciate it. Hey, it was a bad weekend for Marjorie Taylor Greene, wasn't it?
Well, maybe.
Very interesting, though. Very interesting how the tide can turn, and boy, did it. We got our president calling her a traitor.
Let me focus group this for y'all. So he is rolling out some nicknames here. So he's got to choose one. He can't have multiple nicknames. We saw him test some out on Ron DeSantis and ended up going with Ron DeSanctimonious, which I thought was really a pretty good one. Now, he did Marjorie Traitor Greene, and then he did Marjorie Taylor Brown because grass turns brown when it rots. Now, the problem with that latter one is it requires an explanation. And these things don't work.
Got to really think about that.
Yeah, if you got to think about it, if you got to explain it. So I think Marjorie...
Was it somewhere her maiden name or something?
Good job.
No. Her maiden name is Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, so Taylor Construction is her family's business. Yeah. So Marjorie Traitor Greene is what Trump is. I think is what he'll stick with, and that's the one that she's responded to as most offended by. one thing I got to figure out here is what is the game plan? Marjorie Taylor Greene, whatever people may have thought of her for the last 5 years, she is not dumb. She is a savvy operative, and she's learned in the job. I think she came in with a lot of this innate talent that fits in great in this attention economy that we are in. We saw the rise of AOC with similar skill set, social media, appeal, all of that. Marjorie Taylor Greene came in as somebody who didn't have a lot of background, didn't understand policy, didn't really know history. She was radicalized online through QAnon and came into office basically holding those beliefs of the QAnon community. I think she got to work. She learned the issues. She talked to real people in the real world, not those just who are terminally online. And I think has grown. I give her a lot of credit for maturation in this job. And you can laugh at me, that's fine. But I have seen this happen with other people. They come in, they don't know much, they do the work, they learn, and they become much more statesman-like. So what is the strategy? What is the strategy here? Because she knew, she was baiting Trump. She knew this was going to happen. If you keep throwing dirt, he is going to come after you. I think he was very patient because he likes her, because they've got a deep and real and meaningful relationship. She has been there for him. She loves him.
Yeah.
So she did this on purpose, and there is some end game here. And I don't know if she thinks that we are entering the post-Trump era and she's going to have her own brand, a new brand, one that perhaps can win in Georgia, because she knows that her old brand can't win statewide in Georgia. So is there a strategy? That's my question. I don't have the answer to that, but she is not just being stupid.
For those of you who don't know what's going on, she's been very critical of his foreign affairs and his meddling, which she calls meddling, in other people's business and not here at home, taking care of business here at home. And also she's pressing for the release of those Epstein files, and she believes that really got under his skin.
And the ACA subsidies.
The ACA subsidies. And the ACA subsidies. So Tharon, what are your thoughts? Were you surprised to see this squabble between two people who at one point were so loyal to one another?
Well, I think our listeners need to really listen to what you and B-Rob just said. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yes.
We don't have enough time, Lisa, to really go all the way back and how this started and how we got to this point. But let me do my best to sort of interpret this. I said on, TV show that Brian and I are on that I was not buying this whole evolution of Marjorie Taylor Greene a week or so ago. B-Rob can back me up on this, because I knew exactly what he said was going to happen. That once President Trump finally decides to say, all right, enough is enough. I mean, he's one of those guys, Lisa. I don't know if you remember this back in the day. It was certain people you used to want to fight on the playground. Certain people I would want to fight on the football field. And it was always that one guy that you like, you know what, if I get in a fight with this guy, he's not going to stop until he dies. Like, he's going to throw things. He's going to go grab a brick. You remember those people? And like, because, back in the day when we were growing up, right? And then, you would kind of pick on the other little guy. Like, all right, if I just push him up a little bit or he pushes me, we're going to just, do a little wrestling, a little bear hugging, and then we're going to end. Donald Trump is the kind of guy that once you decide to pick a fight with him, he is not going to stop until he is done breathing.
He's not going away. Yeah.
So I think this is what's going on, just to kind of give a Democratic point of view. But I defer to B-Rob on this a lot, because he has been talking about this sort of focus group, this backroom dealing. You guys did a wonderful job of pointing out some stuff. But I think our listeners, if you listen to this podcast, this all started when Marjorie Taylor Greene had expressed ambition to possibly run for higher office. All right. And one thing in this game, and Brian and I talk about this a lot, you can't be too ambitious. You can't tell people what you're planning to do, because the haters will hate. And when she came out, Lisa, and allowed the press to sort of say, hey, will she run for governor? Will she run for U.S. Senate? Donald Trump also tweeted out, or said on X, that she started sort of pouting and resisting against him is when he said that her polling numbers were not good enough in order for her to win the race.
Which is true.
Okay, there you go. So thank you, B-Rob, for backing me up. And he did not think that she could win, and he was not going to endorse her. And let's not forget also, Lisa, that this is the same woman who came out and criticized the good old boys club in Georgia. Remember, she was saying, I'm better than all of those guys who are running. So I think to really echo what Brian is saying is, what's the end game here? And I tell you what I think the end game is and what's the strategy. Marjorie Taylor Greene knows that her future in Georgia for higher office right now without a Trump endorsement is not impossible, but it's very, very slim that she will actually be able to do it. I actually think that her going on these national TV shows and talking about ACA subsidies, and let's remind our listeners, the only way that she started talking about them more publicly is because it started happening to her family. It was her kids who saw their premiums going up. Keonan, she said she was a victim of that. But she, in these Epstein files being released in the information, let's also note for this podcast, Donald Trump came out Monday morning and said there's nothing there. All right, that's sending a sort of signal to the Republicans that now all of a sudden you can vote for this. Before, it was being held up because, everybody was wondering who was going to be in there. So, Lisa, I think that this saga will continue. I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene, while she's trying to apologize, she also is saying that, hey, release the files because she believes that there may be something in there about former President Bill Clinton. It's not all about like something that's in there about Trump. And so I just think the biggest difference here is that you have a woman, and Trump gets away with this, Lisa. If a Democratic president or a Democratic man says some of the things, like you start calling a woman Marjorie, Traitor, Greene, and you start doing that in the Democratic Party, you'll have all these folks coming out saying, oh my God, that's terrible. Why are you disrespecting this women? I'm shocked at the women within the Republican Party who's allowing this name calling to go on.
To keep going.
But so I think Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's had a brief time of like evolution. I think she'll go back to being who she was, and she will get a lot of credit if the Epstein files are released, which, by the way, for our listeners, you don't need congressional approval to release the files. The Department of Justice could release the files today. But she's going to be labeled as a crusader, a person who sort of pioneered this movement for these victims. I saw the commercial, B-Rob, I'm seeing you've seen it. They've come out with a commercial now of the victims, and just seeing those women now who are grown, some of whom have gone on to become married, some of them not, standing up there with those pictures is horrifying. But I think that she's not done yet. This saga will continue. Trump is going to try to embarrass her even more. But she needs to stand on business and make sure that she does what's best for her district. But I think that that what we got to do as Democrats, remember that her end goal is still the end goal. She wants more Republicans to win. She's not out here advocating for Democrats to win. She's advocating for an issue we care deeply about, but she still is a Republican and a conservative Republican who supports Donald Trump.
Over the weekend, she said something we haven't heard her say very much, and that is, I'm sorry. Listen to this.
I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country. And it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions. And I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Do you buy that? She's trying to put another face on her, a new face rather, on her politics, so to speak.
So I do wonder if it's a road to Damascus moment, a moment of conversion for her, where she has this awakening and decides to change course. I don't know that's what it is, but it does sound like it. And I am somebody who tends to believe people until you give me a reason not to believe you. And I can speak from personal experience on this because in the 2010 governor's race, it was the first time Georgians ever kind of got a taste for my style. And I was the spokesman for then Congressman Deal in that governor's race. And it was a brutal primary and general election. And we had a much more robust media ecosystem back then. And so I was in the media every day, just ripping people's faces off with very biting and direct
Brian,
attacks.
you can rip people's faces off? What?
Yeah, it was what I was known for much longer than the pleasant, smiling political breakfast co-host that I am today. So I went through it, and I was part of that toxic political atmosphere, and to some degree, I still am. It's just I write stuff for other people to say that doesn't have my name on it anymore, but. I will say that being on the front lines of that took a toll on my mental health. Being in combat all the time, fighting all the time, triggers this fight or flight response in us. It can be traumatic. Coming out of that campaign, I just had a lot of like mental health recovery to do. When you wake up just, smelling the fire of a grenade every morning, then it has an impact on you. And I spent years after that campaign rebuilding relationships. I really intentionally went out and found the people that I had attacked and built friendships with them. Those are friendships that endure to today. Some of them are very meaningful friendships. So I had that road to Damascus moment. Now, granted, easy for me to say. I had achieved what I wanted to achieve. My guy had won the governorship. That changed my life. That changed the trajectory of my career. And then I can go be the good guy now, right? Because we had done the dirty work, and the dirty work was essential, and it was part of what we had to do. But
costly. It comes at a cost.
It comes at a cost to your mental health. And I wanted something different, and I rebuilt it. I think she's got the chance to do that. She's got a much bigger platform than I ever had. That's for darn sure.
All right, Tharon, you huffing and puffing over there. What's your can she change?
It's not a huffing and puffing and a bad thing. At least it's really me coming back to the microphone and really no, seriously, in all seriousness, to really commend Brian for what he just said. Because, we've been doing this for almost 11 years now. And just to open up to our listeners, every time we open our mouths and we say something on this show, we make friends, we make enemies. And many of these enemies don't really emerge and say things. And so for Brian to say, hey, look, it took him a while to get over that. Look, I've been in those shoes too, where you have to go after folks and be that strong person. And many times in campaigns, Lisa, even when you win, the haters are even more of a force because folks don't like success. But so Brian, I commend you for saying that evolution. I do know a couple people who you've reached out to, and even most recently when we were at the Capitol last year, you had a gentleman just kind of blurt out at you. He tried you. He came at you pretty strong, and you took it. Now you didn't fold. You basically was like, hey, I stand by everything I said. Yeah. But it was the way you did. Now I had to hold you back a little bit, but the guy, he tried you in public, right? And he wasn't lying. I mean, you did say some things. But let's bring it back to what she just said, Lisa. Like Brian, I'm going to give her a chance because, I'm feeling good this morning. And, but also think about this. She's the first person to come out and say that the assassination of Charlie Kirk did something to her. And I think what she's saying is, Lisa, like many of us in this country, when we witnessed that, we saw that video of this human being who was assassinated at a college campus. And he was a leader within the Republican Party. A lot of people agree with him. A lot of people disagree with him, right? But for her to witness that and to have, gone through that, I think what she's saying here, Lisa, is that her participating in the toxic environment, she was criticizing her president. And she was criticizing, Republicans along with Democrats too. But so what was different about this is that I think she became more focused and felt like she had to do something to speak out on an issue she cared deeply about. What changed is that we were just all shocked that she had actually said something about the president, was calling him out to do more of what he wasn't doing. And so Again, she's not saying she apologizes for what she's standing for. She's apologizing to the president, of course, but she's also apologizing for what she believes is participating in sort of the toxicity that exists in this country. So now what I think she has an opportunity to do is, will she continue to debate? Let's wait. This is about to be a big argument in the House over the Epstein files, over healthcare subsidies, ACA, a lot of different things that are coming up. And she also, Lisa, has said what a lot of people have been saying privately, a lot of Republicans. They do feel that the president, while it is a part of his job to make sure that we keep our foreign affairs in order, we got to make sure we continue to keep an eye on what's going on in the world, support our foreign allies, but also make sure our enemies are being monitored and what they're trying to do. There is a lot of stuff here back at home that the president has not been as visibly attentive to. And I think that she was well received to point that out. Yeah.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, one thing that is etched in my mind forever and ever is those remarks that she made years ago. And I know the past can haunt us all, but, she was calling one of the Parkland, Florida teen school shooting survivors a coward.
And he's a coward. He can't say one word because he can't defend his stance. Because there is no defense for taking away guns. There is no defense for gun confiscation. Zero.
So how easy is it to move away and separate yourself from things like that? Again, that was David Hogg, Parkland, Florida, school shooting survivor. And we all remember how traumatic that shooting was.
Yeah. She followed David Hogg around on Capitol Hill before she was in Congress and yelling at him on camera, and he never responded to her. It's really cringe. It's even in real time when I first saw it, I was like, oh, God, this is just so awkward to watch. I have to turn away from this a little bit, even though she's someone who could do cringe things that you can't turn away from. That's one of her superpowers is you got to keep watching to see what she's going to do next. And you can't whitewash all that stuff. It's part of the record book. And I think she's addressing that head on. I think that's what we are hearing her talk about. That stuff isn't okay. And I applaud her for doing that. One thing, the three of us together as a traveling road crew, the one unifying piece of analysis about us that we get thrown back at us is just so nice that y'all can talk without screaming at each other, without name calling. It is every single time we do a public event, people respect civility in discourse. And there is an audience out there that wants it, but that's not the audience that put her in office. And that's my underlying question about the strategy. She has a well-developed brand, and you can hate the brand, you can love the brand, you can just step aside and just see it as entertainment, but you know the brand. It's very hard to go and change your brand completely. It was like when McDonald's tried to have healthy options. Nobody wanted to go to McDonald's for a healthy option.
Salad.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I want a salad. McDonald's is where I want to go. No, that's not what you think. You might think you want to make flurry, but the machine's going to be broke, so you can't get that. You don't go there for a salad. And people aren't necessarily trained to go to MTG for a salad. They're there for the Big Mac, right? They came to the show for the Big Mac. And that's my question here that I don't have the answer to. We have not seen in this country much success in the Republican Party of being in a lane separate from and attacked by President Trump. For the most part, that has been a political death sentence for politicians. We can name, list, read the tombstones of the political graveyard. Jeff Flake from Arizona, Corker from Tennessee. The list goes on and on and on and on. And it's very difficult to beat him. One of the few who did it happens to live on West Paces Ferry, and his name's Brian Kemp.
Brian Kemp. Do you find that it will be hard for her to move away from such inflammatory comments? And does it matter at this juncture?
Well, it does matter. And Lisa, thank you for playing that clip, because I can think of at least 3 or 4 other clips. I remember her yelling out during the State of the Union when President Biden was speaking, and not only just yelling, but continuously yelling and chanting and doing things. Also, we all remember the feud between her and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett during the committee hearing. They both called each other names, but she's a very provoking individual who has made a name for herself for just really saying things. I mean, she's used cuss words in the past when talking about certain things and certain people. So, Brian, back to your McDonald's analogy. I think the one thing I would say, because I've heard you use that now for about maybe 4 or 5 times, it's actually really good. But I think that what I would say, and in full disclosure, I don't represent McDonald's, but I would love to, is
I love a good book.
McDonald's follow the trend. They follow the data. I believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene believes that if she were to ever be able to break through the good old boys club in Georgia, she's got to chart a new path. Maybe she's looking at the data. Maybe she's looking at a trend, Brian, that she believes that because she's taking this new approach, that there are more moderate Republicans out there, disaffected Republicans out there that may listen to someone like her. Will it be a long-term trend and strategy that she can probably sustain? No, because the president just has so much power over people. I mean, he's pretty much destroyed the Reagan Republican Party that we all knew, the Bush Party, the Republicans, all these folks. And so I don't think it's a long-standing relationship, but I'm waiting to see this, Lisa. How does she vote? At the end of the day, B. Rob and I've worked for members of Congress. let's see how she votes. Let's see how she votes in committee. Let's see how she votes on these issues that are coming up. And I think that she will continue to do more media. And I invite the Congresswoman onto the show. I know her people listen to it.
Fun?
And I want to extend an invitation to her, Lisa, because I actually have been critical of her in the past, said things, and it's to hear Brian talk about her, which I will say you've never gone too far to the point where you've dismissed her totally, but you have stepped out and said, hey, maybe this thing or two what she said was wrong, and you defended her on some of the things she said too. She's sparking conversation. And again, I would love to have a conversation with her because learn more. And I think that while she's doing local media now, why not come on a Political Breakfast podcast?
Yeah.
Your folks, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we'll be reaching out to you in hopes that you will come on. Who knows what'll be happening by the next time we talk? I'm predicting probably a lot, both when it comes to football and politics. So I want to say thank you for checking in. Tharon, Brian, Lily, let's do it again soon.
See y'all next week.
I think we're at Manuel's. We're at Manuel's next week. Yeah. All right.
We'll have a little pre-Thanksgiving meal.